Hey, what's up, folks? I want to thank everybody for coming back to the channel. I really appreciate it. I want to thank you, big thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel and for all the comments and feedback recently in the videos. I try to reply to every single comment as quickly as I can once I see them. So get a lot of interesting stuff in the comments and feedback from you guys. So just keep it coming. I appreciate it. And hopefully I've been able to answer all your questions and give you, some answers to some of the stuff you've been asking me about. Today, I got a quick video. It's on 3 things that I've learned, lessons, I guess you could say I've learned about fishing, bass fishing in the spring. And they're things that, if you really take these things into account, can really help you in the spring, in a time when things are changing so rapidly with the fish, and maybe help you to get a few more bites and really understand the spring and the spawn and the post-spawn transition, and things you can do and not do to help you put a few more fish in the boat or in the kayak or wherever it is you fish out of. The first one is, do not get locked in to any particular bait, technique, or pattern, especially the closer you get to the spawn. Things change so rapidly that you could go from a just straight up awesome spinnerbait bite to a crankbait bite, right into a bladed jig bite, all in the course of a day or two. Like, I'll give you an example. You could be, everyone throws red crankbaits in the spring. I throw red crankbaits in the spring. My time on the water this spring has been limited because of the baby and because of things we got going on at home. I completely missed that red crankbait bite. The few times I have been out, I've thrown it. It ain't happening. I go back and I tried chartreuse blue back and caught a few with that. But what I've noticed is that crankbait bite has not been good, and that comes as a result of not being on the water and connected with what's going on. But I have been catching them good on a bladed jig. And a lot of times in the spring, right before the spawn, man, the baits that they get on can change so fast that you don't want to get locked on, especially when it comes to moving baits. You do not want to get locked on to any one bait. If you're a guy that does tournaments, and I learned this the hard way. I'll give you an example. It was 2015 or 16. I was going to fish a BFL at Kerr Lake. And when I tell you that I was on a crankbait bite with Little John, crawfish color Little John crankbait, it was the craziest thing I had ever seen. I went down there the weekend before and I couldn't do no wrong. They were just all over that bait. I was catching numbers, I was catching size. Fast forward, I went to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, headed back down so I could pre-fish a little tournament Saturday. I went back down Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Wednesday, that bite was still there. I mean, they were crushing it. Thursday, I stopped sticking so many of them. So I started fishing them without a hook, or with bent hooks or no hooks. Still getting a lot of bites. Friday, I didn't fish as much. I just looked around for more areas. But that afternoon, more boats, more traffic, more things going on. Those fish feel that pressure, that's one thing. But 2, they were getting closer to wanting to spawn, and I wasn't getting as many bites. And even with the, even the ones I did get, I wasn't certain what they were because I had rolled my hooks or either took the hooks off. Long story short, Saturday, those fish would not touch it. They would not touch it. I had told my co-angler about the bite I was on. We each did catch a keeper doing that, but that was it, one keeper apiece. They would not, and the ones we caught, you could tell by the way the hook, whenever you're catching fish on a crankbait and all you're catching them on is the rear hook, they're eating it, but they ain't eating it like they want it. They're just kind of swiping at it. I talked to a guy who was in that area. He ended up getting a top 10. And he was on a similar crankbait bite, little bit different bait. But he told me the only thing he did different was all he did was drag around a shaky head. And the fish were still there. They weren't willing to chase that bait anymore. And in fact, I remember him telling me the morning was a shaky head. By the afternoon, he was catching them on a little brush hog. The shaky head bite went away on him. So you cannot, in the spring, it's so important to know that bite and the bite windows can change so quickly because they're getting to where they're thinking about the spawn, that if you get locked into one bait or one technique, you can, especially if you're just out there fishing for fun, it's the same thing, whether you're tournament fishing or not. If you don't get that many days on the water, the days you get out there, you want to catch fish. Do not get locked into one particular pattern or technique or bait. That's like the kiss of death, especially like a week or right before or right when we're going into the spawn. And I jotted these things down because I've been working on tackle, changing line, rigging rods, because I got my first tournament of the year next weekend. I'm pretty pumped about that. So these three things kind of popped in my head as I was working on tackle. The second thing is if you find fish in an area, and this goes back to what I just said, kind of. If you find an area and you're catching fish in it, this time of the year, the fish may change, what they want to eat, what they want to bite. But until those fish spawn and do their deal, they ain't going nowhere. They're still there. So don't just pick up and leave thinking, man, yesterday I had this area, or 2 days ago, and I was killing them, man. I was catching them like crazy, size, numbers. They were real aggressive. It was just a good day of fishing. When you find an area like that this time of the year, if the things you've been doing don't work, don't just say, oh, they left, because they haven't left. They're still there. Change your bait color. If you've been catching them on, we'll say again, say a crankbait, bladed jig, even spinnerbait, and now you can't, you're like, man, where'd they all go? Start dragging something along the bottom. Start fishing a worm. Start fishing a creature bait, a lizard, even a jig maybe. Change colors. Change. One of the biggest things that gets overlooked in the spring is rate of fall of your bait when you're fishing a bottom bait. Change the weight size so you're having a slower fall or maybe a quicker fall. Bottom line is, don't leave that area when you know there were fish there and you've been catching them, because this time of the year, until they do their deal, until they're finished spawning, those fish ain't gonna just pick up and go. They're gonna hang around that area until they get done doing what they went there for. Now, the spring is the one time of the year. There's more fish in 6 foot of water or less from now until, say, the middle of May than probably all year long. There's no doubt. The bigger ones are going to spawn first. The bigger females always spawn first. And don't be surprised at how deep or shallow they may spawn. That depends on your water color. And lakes back home in Virginia, where I'm from, if it didn't get a lot of rain in the spring and that water would be pretty clear, I can remember fishing for bass that were on bed by taking the old orange buoy markers. I would find the bed and throw the buoy marker out behind the bed, so I'd know that the bed was located in 6 or 8 foot of water on a big stump right out in front of that buoy marker, and that's how I would bed fish. A lot of times your bigger fish will spawn deeper, but water color and all that has a lot to do with how deep or shallow they may or may not spawn. So keep that in mind as well. The last thing is, Do not go fishing this time of the year without a wacky rig on, or some type of rig with a stick bait. Wacky rig, Nico rig, just regular Texas rig, the backup rig, I call it. I did a video on a couple of videos ago where you nail weight the back end of a stick bait and fish it that way. This time of the year is when those Senko type baits, they shine. Now you can catch fish with those things all year long. I tend to fish them more this time of the year. They just get a lot of bites. And this time of the year, there are so many fish shallow and so many big fish moving shallow to spawn and do their thing, that it's a bait that will get you a lot of bites, but it'll also help you catch big ones. Something about that bait, you know, everyone says the original Senko is the best. I feel like they've changed that bait. Something in it's different. There's not as much salt in them. I use the Bass Pro Sticko. And I got some of the Senkos too, but I've had a lot of luck with the Bass Pro Shops version. The Strike King Ocho is another good one I've had a lot of luck with. But whatever you do, keep a wacky rig rigged up on one of your rods, and and sometimes the wacky rig on one rod and just a Texas rig stick bait on another. Even even that nail weight in the tail end, the backup rig, like I talked about in a couple videos ago. That bait is key in the spring. That stick bait is one of your best friends this time of the year. From now through the rest of March, through the whole month of April and the first part of May, depending on what kind of spring you have, air temperature and the weather, how stable it is how long it'll take, sometimes even into June. And then after that is when you start focusing more back on your crankbait, topwater. Once they get to spawning, it's plastics do dominate a lot of the fishing. But don't forget about your Rogue, and don't forget about a topwater, a prop bait. Because after they spawn and those fry are everywhere, prop bait is a, you know, it's not a sneaky way, but it's a way people don't fish that much anymore. Prop bait catch a lot of fish, especially those males guarding the fry. So, but that was just 3 things. Like I said, I had to jot these down so I remember them. The first one, don't get locked on to any bait or pattern. Always be versatile and change, because everything with fishing changes so fast right now during this pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn period. Second, find an area with fish in it. Don't just give up on it if they're not eating what they were eating. Change colors, change techniques, change baits, slow down. Those fish are probably still there. You just got to change the way you're fishing for them. And lastly, stick baits, never go fishing from now until the spawn is over without a wacky rig or some sort of rig with a stick bait. It just gets you a ton of bites. So anyway, there's 3 things that, like I said, it kind of lessons I learned the hard way at times through tournament competition and just fishing in general. So even if you don't fish tournaments, this will apply. If you do, keep it in mind how quickly things can change. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming back to the channel and for all your comments. I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys are getting out there. I'm pumped for my first tournament of the year. I don't know what to expect, but I'm ready to go, get the season started, and hopefully it'll be a good one for me and for you guys as well. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.